Welcome to the Mystic Media Channel. I am your host, Rabina Rastaban, aka the Realist Astrologer. And tonight I'm going to get into part two of my Mary J. Blige, Kendu Isaac's video. Basically, to recap the first part, Mary J. Blige has filed for divorce against Kendu Isaacs, um, basically for irreconcilable differences, I guess. Per my first part, I discussed Mary J. Blige's natal chart numerology, and I basically discussed how it was the perfect setup to be in a relationship such as this, where Kendu Isaacs was basically exploiting her, basically running games, pulling a charade, and whatnot. So tonight I'm going to get into his chart, and I want to thank some of my viewers for providing his birth details because when I Google searched his birth date, I just looked at the first page. I just glanced at it. I didn't see it. And it's probably because I'm biased against him. Like, I'm really not feeling him, as you could tell from the first video. So I just glanced real quick, didn't see his birthday, and I was just like, whatever. But thank you so much for providing his birth details because it gives me even more insight into this madness. So Kendall was born on August 14th, 1968. So that makes him a Leo, and it makes him a very intellectual Leo. Now, the number 14 is a very intellectual number in terms of numerology, and it breaks down to 5, and that's the number of Mercury, or yes, the number of Mercury. So 14 is more difficult than 5 because 14 is a compound number. So anytime you have a compound number, you might have to deal with more challenges, or just your approach to life might be a little bit more complex than somebody with a single digit. So the main challenge with 14 is whenever they want change in their life, it's very hard for them to initiate that change, or sometimes change just falls upon them, and oftentimes that change is very traumatic. Or if they're initiating that change, they might leave a trail of disaster or broken hearts or what have you. So 14s, they often go through some type of catastrophe in the process of change. 14s can have major come ups in terms of money, but then they can also have major downfalls as well, or major losses. So they got to be very careful. 14 is a number of speculation and also gambling. It's a number of investments. So that basically underscores my opinion that Kendu was basically looking at this marriage as an investment. His life path number is 10 and 1. 10 in particular I consider to be the number of the hitchhiker, because while 10 is a very fortunate number, oftentimes that person meets with fortune through others. So oftentimes the 10 person rides on the coattail of others, or they try to latch on to other people's success, or they try to, they'll often get rich through marriage or through some type of partnership. So his life path number, to me, is the perfect setup for the type of marriage that he entered into with Mary J. Blige, because he was able to increase his income through that marriage. So that's the essence of the number 10 and also the number 14, because I mentioned that 14 is a number of investments and speculation, and it's a number where you can have major come ups. But as you can see now, he's experiencing his major loss, or it's impending major loss. So when I look at his natal chart, I notice some key factors that can point to him being deceitful and him basically living a lie. So the main thing I see is he has a square between his sun and Neptune. His sun is in Leo, his Neptune is in Scorpio. So that is a perfect combination for somebody who has parasitic tendencies and who basically lives to exploit others. Basically, Sun square Neptune can deal with you living a lie. It can deal with you deceiving others. It can deal with you having a hidden agenda. Basically, you're not upfront, and basically you could be a sleaze and a scoundrel. So that Sun square Neptune, if you ask me, says it all. But he also has Uranus conjunct Pluto in Virgo. Now that's more generational, but still in his chart, it's a factor. That Uranus conjunct Pluto and Scorpio in Virgo can deal with receiving help, but from and financial help in an unusual way or in an unorthodox way. And it's opposing his Chiron in Aries. And Chiron is an asteroid that can also deal with alternative means or unorthodox ideas, out of the box ideas, or something that's just odd or different. So when I see that aspect, that points to, in my opinion, to him basically faking the funk. He's really attracted to men, but in order to help himself or serve himself, he had to get into this, what is unorthodox to him, being with this woman, in order to get over. So I believe that's what that aspect deals with. Now, in terms of his spiritual evolution, his North Node, which deals with the traits that he needs to aspire to in this lifetime, is in Aries. It's at the 11th degree, which I believe is very interesting because Mary J. Blige's birth number is 11. And I mentioned in the previous video that 11 is a number of conflict. Oftentimes that conflict is internal, or it can deal with conflict within a personal relationship or marriage. It's often dealing with money issues, financial insecurity. It can also deal with having a hidden agenda, illusion, and deception as well. 11 can deal with having like a mirror image that is false. That is not the true image. So with his North Node being in Aries, his South Node is in Libra. So in past lifetimes, he was a very relationship oriented type of person. He was dependent upon others for his livelihood, for his well-being, maybe even financial security. So in this lifetime, he needs to be more independent. He needs to be more of an originator. He needs to be able to stand on his own 2 feet. However, in this lifetime, he's prone to just latch on to others because of that South Node in Libra. However, because of the North Node in Aries, and he also has Saturn in Aries and Chiron in Aries, he's entering into relationships, but coming from a selfish position. So it's all for his self gain and self promotion. And with Leo, that's the sign of promotion. So, and it's also the sign of investments. So he took this whole marriage with Mary J. Blige as an investment and an opportunity to come up. And again, with that numerology of 14, that can result in major financial gain, but also major financial losses if one is not careful. So with him having Saturn in Aries, that makes him very selfish. His Saturn is retrograde, which can deal with having a hidden agenda when it comes to his selfish motives, where yeah, he might be selfish, but he's not even upfront when it comes to his selfish motives. He feels like he has to have, wear a mask or have some type of deceptive means in terms of getting what he wants. So in this lifetime, he's definitely not living according to his spiritual evolution. He's living through his South Node in Libra, but he's doing it in a very selfish way. His Mars is in Leo, so he has strong Leo energy, but also strong Virgo energy. So that strong Leo energy gives him a strong drive to want to lead, to want to dominate, and basically it makes him hyper egotistical. And then he has the Sun in Leo, also Mercury in Leo. So I'm not sure his birth time, but for the time that I have now that basically defaulted when I pulled the chart, that Mercury is at the 29th degree of Leo. And I believe that's where it really is. So I always talk about the 29th degree. The 29th degree is a degree of desperation. It's a degree of a feeling of tremendous pressure. It's a degree of conflict. Basically heavy karma. So basically with this marriage, he's sowing some seeds of heavy karma, really. And 29 breaks down to 11 and 2. It's a compound number, and it's a triple number because it's 29, 11, and 2. So that's one of the most difficult numbers to deal with in terms of numerology. So a lot of evil can take place with that number 29, either at the hands of the person with the number 29 or through people that deal with them. Now, in terms of Kendu's case, it looks like the evil that he does is, it looks like he's doing the evil. So, yeah. Now, all that Virgo energy he has can deal with him really, deep down inside, kind of taking a submissive position or wanting to take a submissive position so that, everything can be handed to him. So basically, with that Virgo energy, he appears to be very helpful, and probably in some ways he is really helpful, and he probably did help Mary in some ways. But he has a hidden agenda, and that hidden agenda is about him really wanting to help himself. So by him pretending to help Mary, he was really self-serving and just wanting to help himself. So that's basically Kendu's chart in a nutshell, just real quick, just some of the things I see that could contribute to him being such a parasite and a sleaze. Now, in terms of their synastry, basically when I put their two charts together, I noticed that his Mars has nothing but positive aspects to her planet. Now, for a lot of people that could be a good thing, but we're talking about Kendu Isaacs here. And in terms of synastry, Mars in a relationship can deal with passion, it can deal with excitement. Basically, it deals with what pulls the person in, so it could deal with the person going after the love interest and actually being able to win them over. It deals with assertiveness. It deals with basically individuality. So it also can produce good sex. So when Mars is in good aspect. So Mars is in positive aspect to her Venus. Now that's very good for relationships. It's actually the ideal aspect that you want to see in a synastry. However, like I said, we're dealing with Kendu Isaacs here. And we already know that Kendu Isaacs is a scoundrel and a parasite, and he just got with Mary J. Blige just to further his own ends and to basically have that financial come up. So Venus not only deals with relationships and love, it deals with money. So with his Mars in trine to Venus, which is a positive aspect, that just basically meant that it was very easy for him to win her over, and it was very easy for him to get his hands on that money. He also has Mars trine her Neptune, that planet Neptune again, so it was easy for him to deceive her, and also put up that illusion. He also has his Mars in trine to her Chiron. Chiron deals with the physical, emotional, or psychological wounds that we receive. So basically, he came from a position that's trying to, help her out, trying to get her cleaned up, trying to heal her of those wounds that she experienced. So with all that Virgo energy he's carrying, basically he played a really good role as being a healer, being a helpmate to her. But in all actuality, like I said, he was trying to help himself. Now, all of his Venus aspects to her planets, they're all negative. So Venus in a relationship is what brings the harmony. It's what brings the compromise. It's what brings the love, that sensitivity, just caring about one another, knowing how to put your differences aside so that you can keep the peace, being receptive. So the fact that all of his Venus aspects are all negative shows me that he was not really receptive, that he was not interested in having a harmonious union, that he was not willing to cooperate or compromise, and that basically he was just in it for his own benefits. So all of those Venus and challenging aspects to like her moon, her sun, her Neptune, there goes the Neptune again, and her Chiron, there goes the Chiron again, basically is showing right there that there was no love coming from him in this marriage. So finally, in terms of his planets, he has Neptune in positive aspect to her sun, and also Pluto in positive aspect to her sun. So on the surface, somebody, that's not well versed in astrology might look at that and say, oh, that's good. That means that's a nice romance, and that means they're going to have a real strong bond, and, he's going to be a positive influence. Well, yeah, to a certain extent. But if you look at it from the flip side, that Neptune deals with bondage, it deals with exploitation, it deals with illusion, deception, like I said. And Pluto deals with control, domination, basically, again, exploitation. And Pluto deals with joint finances or other people's money. So there you go. That's Mary J. Blige's money. So that Pluto in positive aspect to her sun showed that it was very easy for him to get his hands on her money through marriage. Now, what's very interesting is Mary J. Blige, she has her Mars in Scorpio, and that's a very strong, dominant position for Mars to be in. So she's no weakling. And as much as she would have liked to be submissive in this marriage to Kendu and let him run the show, with that Mars in Scorpio, that made it very difficult. So that Mars in Scorpio made her a natural detective. It made her basically be able to sniff him out when he was basically doing shady stuff. So I would venture to say that there was numerous times when she caught him doing some, underhanded stuff. She probably, was keeping tabs on him. He probably was getting sloppy. Sun and Leo can get sloppy. So Leo men can get sloppy. They do have a tendency, the dark-sided ones, to be players even in marriage. So with his homosexual tendencies, he probably still wanted to play the field and, run after them, pretty boys or whatever, or them trannies or whatever the hell he was doing. He was probably coming home with cum on his breath and all that stuff, and she was probably like, she probably just had it and was like, and then, she was probably checking her bank account, saw that, some of the funds were missing. I would even venture to say that, and I wouldn't be surprised if this came out, that he probably had a separate bank account. He might have been funneling, funds into a separate bank account, and maybe she found out about it or something like that. But that Mars and Scorpio square his sun in Leo, that can deal with that situation as well. And also, like I said, his Pluto in trine to her sun. But yeah, I believe her Mars and Scorpio at the end of the day is what saved her and what gave her the courage to break free from this parasite. So that's basically my take on their Synastry and Kendu Isaac's chart. Um, Hope you found this enlightening. And basically, that's about it with this Kendu Isaac. Like I said, I already feel like he was a sleaze to begin with and a straight up fraud. So, yeah, I hope Mary can really heal from this. And I hope that she comes out of this divorce okay. And, yeah, I'm going to just put it out to the universe. I hope, they put a little ring of protection around Mary, because Mary is vulnerable. She's that Capricorn. She also has that Scorpio energy, and like I said, I like Mary, and I just wish the best for her. So I hope that one day she can really find true love, but she definitely didn't find it with this Kendu, or should I say can't do Isaac. So that's my take on that. Peace and blessings.